Hello, this is Shea Marriott from the Rebirth Radio Show. Thank you for joining me. This is a special edition of the Rebirth. We are going to be addressing racial trauma, systemic racism, and microaggressions. Stay tuned.
To be a star, just do you. Somebody's got to raise the bar. Just do you. Somebody's got to change the game. Just do you.
Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone here. My name is Shea Marriott, and this is the Rebirth. We decided to come together for a special edition of the Rebirth to address some of the things that is happening in our world today. Joining me today is Miss Jenn Fontel, Poet Lost Child, and Eli Isabell. What's up, everybody? I have my crew with me. I'm excited. How's everybody doing?
Good. Marvelous.
Yeah.
Hanging in.
Y'all holding up okay?
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Best we can.
Okay. So we just gonna jump right into it. I would like to see what the temperature is, with everybody.
Hot.
It's hot, right? It's
extremely hot.
2020 has been very
Fire.
It's been very challenging from one thing after another. Not to compare apples to oranges, but of course it started out with the death of Kobe Bryant, and then from there it was just like a month, 2 months later we had the coronavirus and the pandemic, and then now we have another killing of a Black man. So how have you guys been processing everything?
I think for me, it's been moment by moment, and just with trying to navigate, needing to be present about what's going on in the community, but in the same sense, needing to step back and practice self-care, because it is overwhelming. I do find myself frustrated, annoyed, confused, uncertain with everything that's just unfolding within moments.
Absolutely. What about you, Lost Child?
I think it's the frustration and all that. I don't know. I get a little bit of relief in that it seems like everyone else is catching up to where I've been for years. It's with the killing. I mean, we want to go right now. Everything is about George Floyd.
Right.
And before George, I mean, I don't even know. I can't keep track of the names from George Floyd to Eric Garner to Tamir Rice to like I take it all the way back to Sean Bell and Amadou Diallo.
Right.
So like I said, I've been here for years. I've been frustrated for years. I've been afraid for years. I've been looking over my shoulder for years, even though I've never been that dude out on the block. I've never been that dude stealing out of stores. I've never been that dude that lived a criminal life at all. Like I've been very conscious and aware from like 13 on up to make sure that I don't do those things. So I make sure I prove to them that I'm not gonna give them the satisfaction of saying, see, that's exactly what I thought they were. So I've been here. I've been frustrated. I've been all of that. So now that I see everybody else finally, oh, this is wrong. Thank y'all. Where y'all been?
Right. Yeah, definitely. What about you, Eli?
Just really quick to piggyback off of something Lost Child just said, the fact that we have to prove that we are not the typical whatever stereotypes they project onto us. We have to prove that we're not that as Black men, and as Black women also. But I really think so much more as Black men, because we're criminalized so often. And I feel like walking into any atmosphere, even at the park running or riding my bike, I feel like I have to always not to be the non-threatening Negro, and that's
right.
But the video that was heartbreaking. I've seen clips of videos of things happening to us, but this is the first time I ever watched one of those videos from beginning to end. Because normally I can't take it and I get too upset. But I watched it from beginning to end, and it made me cry. Frankly, not to sound soft or nothing, but it did something to me. Like it really broke my spirit in that moment to see that happen to him, and it was just sad as hell. And it made me angry, man. And it made me not like white folks or all of them, not that couple.
And that's the thing.
I'm back now.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I tell people, I mean, it's hard to explain it to people, but my thing is I'm not a snake person. So when I see a snake is a snake. I don't care. Oh, it's venomous. It's not. A snake is a snake. Like I know the physiology. Like I know poisonous snakes have a diamond-shaped head because they have their poison sacs at the base of their head. So it causes that part of the head to be wider and it narrows down towards the nose. So I know that. But at the end of the day, when I see slither, oh, I'm gone. I'm not waiting to see what the shape of it. A snake is a snake, and I got to get a shovel and start smashing and killing it. Oh, it's a garter snake. It's not. It's a snake. Damn it! I'll figure that out after it's dead.
Right.
So and so that's kind of the way I got to look at white people now. I don't know if you're a good white person or not. So I got to be on edge until I get to see. But at the same time, we might not get a chance to see because either I got to put hands on you or I got to back up and get away from you far enough where I know you can't cause me danger, hurt, harm, or danger because I don't know. Because so many of y'all are, and y'all all look alike, and we get that bad rap of being the irate and the criminals and this, that, and the other. But if you look at the history of this country, we've never been the killers. We've always defended ourselves, and to the point of, unless you want to talk about the slave rebellions when we killed white people, but we were rebelling as slaves. But outside of that, you look at the Black Panther Party, you look at the Nation of Islam, you look at any of these groups, we've never been the aggressors. We've always been the defenders, and in defending ourselves, we get the bad rap of being these radical groups and this, that, and the other. We've never gone out and killed white people, period. We've always been the ones that have been dying.
Yeah. Wow, that's deep. And it's truth. And I appreciate the transparency, you know what you said, Eli, that for a second there, you was like, I found myself hating white people. I know you back now. I know you back. But it was just a feeling that came across. And I think if we're honest about it, a lot of people probably felt that way, and really did not know how to process those feelings and those emotions. And I know with my experience, I've had people not really know what to say to me. I'm really great friends with a couple of my neighbors, and when they saw me, they really didn't know what to say. I had one lady just she just started crying, and she was just like, I don't understand. Please help me, please help me understand what's happening, what's going on, and, just the mere fact that she was just like, look, I'm looking out for your sons. When they're outside, I'm looking out for them. I'm making sure they're okay. I appreciate that, so it's not a thing. And I don't want anybody to take away from this that, we're saying that, all white people are bad or all cops are bad or all. No, there's bad people in every way. Every race, in every race, there's bad people in different fields of careers, so that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how things have been happening, this systemic racism that has been happening all of this time, and now we have the George Floyd situation. What is going to be different this time? What is going to be different? Yes, we've seen that the protests have been different. We've seen that, every state in the United States have been doing these protests and riots. But is it going to be a situation where it happened and then a month from now or 2 months from now, we forget about it?
Mm-hmm. They've been protesting around the world on our behalf.
Absolutely.
That says a lot. That in Germany they're protesting. In Iran, Iraq, those are supposed to be terrorists that we going over to fight against. They're protesting on our behalf. So at this point, it's like everybody else realizes that enough is enough. When we gonna catch on?
Right. Yeah.
And let me say this. Monday, Haley and I, my daughter, we took a ride down to Rehoboth, right? And as we were leaving, it was about 4 o'clock. So we're leaving, and I see police. It wasn't a lot of people down there, because it was a Monday and because of the pandemic, I guess. But anyway, when we were leaving, I noticed a nice little police presence had formed off the boardwalk, on Rehoboth Avenue. And we're walking to the car, and I'm seeing all these white people coming. And I started to pay attention to them, and they had all these Black Lives Matter signs. They were coming to protest. And these are all white people. It wasn't one black people in this crew of people. And I was just like wow. Haley was like, what is going on? Right. I think if there's going to be a change Now will be the time. If this
Absolutely.
doesn't bring about any kind of change, then we're doomed. We're doomed.
Exactly. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Honestly, I think that's the change that we need to see. We can't do anything. Again, like I say it again, we've never been the killers. We're not the one going out killing police officers. I still say free Mumuya Abu Jamal, because it was a situation where it was what we're going through right now. He was a very outspoken person of the movement. He was pulled over by a state trooper that got into it, and the state trooper ended up dead. He's in jail to this day. But you got these officers who, this dude wasn't a criminal. They kill him, they get a vacation, or they get a promotion, or they just get moved to another department. So, okay, if someone's bad and they kill someone, let the justice system do what it do. But these people, again, Tamir Rice was a 12-year-old boy that was playing out in the park. Like these dudes, like George Zimmerman wasn't even a police officer. Like, come on, like, and it's not just the police; it's the systemic racism where the police officers are just tools of that system.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think for me, part of the overwhelm and frustration is that we see history repeating itself. You know, and it seems as though the stories are becoming more gruesome and the lives are becoming younger and younger. And so you know, and for me, it's like, you know, how do I, you know, protect, you know, my nephew, my godson, you know, from something that, you know, from systemic racism, and how do I have that conversation with them? Because we've seen that, you know, this has been centuries, you know, and I think also as well, the narrative, you know, we've always been put in a position where we have to, like you said, defend ourselves, right? And so when we do, the narrative becomes negative, you know? And so learning not to become bitter, you know, at these kinds of things. And I think it helps to have these conversations and be, you know, open and honest and vulnerable about the things that we're struggling with, you know?
Absolutely. You know, I have to go back to this conversation. This is when Trayvon Martin was killed, which was 2012. The hardest conversations, I have two sons, as you all know, and right now their ages are 13 and 15. So 2012, you know, do the math, they were young, you know. The hardest conversation was not sitting them down, talking to them and saying that Daddy and I are divorcing. That wasn't the hardest conversation. The hardest conversation I had to have with my sons was to tell them how to handle themselves if we were ever pulled over by a police officer. To tell them, don't move, don't put your hands in your pocket. Take the hoodie off your head. Don't make any sudden movements. And as a mother that's raising two sons, like, that broke my heart. I couldn't even get through the conversation without constantly breaking down, crying, because I was mad. I was angry. Like, why do I have to have this conversation with my sons? Now, again, I'm going to say it's not all police. It's more good cops out there than it is bad. But if you have 100 cops and it's only one of them that's bad and the other 99 is not reporting it, then you have 100 bad cops.
There you go. Right. I mean, like, and it's and I think it's weird. I never had that conversation when I was 12, 13 years old. Nobody ever told me. I just realized walking back and forth to school, I chose not to go to my neighborhood high school. I went to the county high school, and it was in the suburbs. So I'm walking home from school, and the police stopped me at 3 o'clock in the afternoon with a book bag on, walking towards the bus stop. Where you coming from? Let me see some ID. And I'm like, didn't do anything. And again, walking in the suburbs, we had little kids. They were like 8, 9 years old, chasing us, calling us niggas, throwing bottles at us.
Wow.
And it was just like, all right, why the police ain't stopping them, asking them and taking them to their parents or whatever, but they following us to the bus stop every other day. So, I mean, nobody ever had that conversation with me. When I first got my license, I was driving around getting pulled over. I learned through trial and error what not to do, because nobody ever told me, hey, they're going to treat you differently, watch yourself. So Like I tell people, like at this point, I honestly cannot tell you how many times I've stared down the barrel of a police officer's pistol.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why that's not normal. I mean, and I felt like the last 20 some odd years of me saying it, people just looked at me like, it's not that bad. You just making it seem like it's worse than it really is, this, that, and the other, woo, woo, woo. But now we got all of these videos on social media that are showing us happening all the time. And I'm like, I've been telling y'all for 20 years. So it's rough to have that conversation, but I think it's even worse to figure it out on your own for yourself when you're in that situation and you realize it time and time again.
Yeah.
And think about the trauma that we walk around with from either seeing these videos or knowing somebody personally, or the things that Lost Chalice went through with having a gun pointed at him. We go through these things. We see people that look like us being killed, and we're expected to get up each day and go to work and function normally.
Exactly.
Like these things are happening in our community. So that's frustrating. And I know as Black people, we do a good job of masking the things that are bothering us, but I carry that with me like every day. And that's hard. That's hard. And we're dealing with stuff that people don't even have to think about dealing with. And that's PTSD for your ass, like from years and years of just being a Black man or a Black person.
I'm glad you said that, because I actually had a conversation today with our staff talking about racial trauma. Okay. And that's the racial trauma. And we're sitting here, and anybody that has watched that video and has looked at that video, that is, I would say, not only just a person of color, you're experiencing secondhand trauma. You know what I'm saying? You're watching somebody take their last breath. The video was so clear, it felt like you were there. You know what I'm saying? It felt like you were there. And I kept saying to myself, like, I kept saying, why nobody isn't doing anything, you know? And I understand people were afraid of the cops, what they were going to do. But to sit there and watch somebody take their last breath, man, that's crazy. But the PTSD that you're talking about, you know, so as therapists, right, when especially an African American comes into the office, and you know, we do the background, the intake, we do the history, what happened, what's going on, what their experiences has been. And if you ask someone, have you ever had trauma, most of the time they would probably say no, right? But we know as African Americans, we're born into trauma. We're born into trauma. We've had trauma. We've had it, come on, generations. But we have normalized it so much that we don't even recognize it as trauma. We recognize it as life. This is our life. This is what it is. So the trauma that we deal with, that we suffer with, even when it comes down to treatment, you have to have a therapist that understands how to treat someone that is dealing with racial trauma. And you mentioned PTSD. You can treat it as PTSD, but you got to have that cultural piece of it. You got to have that cultural sensitivity of it. You can't treat someone that has racial trauma the same way you treat someone that is just experiencing PTSD. You're having the same symptoms, but the cultural part of that has to be involved. You have to understand where that person is coming from, whether it's African American, whether it's the Latinx community, whether it's Native American, Asian. You have to understand the culture to be able to treat them effectively. Y'all done got me hot over here.
And I think it's Shea knows, and I have no shame in admitting, I just recently started my therapy journey.
Yes, congratulations. That's right.
And I mean, I never saw it as like a weakness or anything, but I realized even outside of the systemic racism, I got my own little personal situation that I've been dealing with literally since birth. So it's that on top of the fact that I got to go outside and then deal with the nonsense outside. So it got to a certain point, which is like, you know what, maybe I'm dealing with a little too much here. So yeah, I definitely saw the started understanding the PTSD.
Yeah.
I was watching a show about yesterday, and it was some kid. I can't remember the name or the state or it was back in like 2000, early 2000s, where a son went into his parents' bedroom, shot both his mother and father in the head. They both survived, and then the process of them acknowledging they survived and they're both fine and aware of whatever, and going through the process. He's in jail now, and they go visit him and they talk to him and they love and hug, and
Wow.
and they're both on medication now because they were like, the mom was shot like in the cheek, the dad was shot like in the head. But like I said, they both survived, so they're both on PTSD. They were both on meds because of the PTSD. And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, how easily. I mean, I hate to make it sound like a black and white issue, but how easily white people are diagnosed with PTSD for situations and things that they experience. But my thing is, okay, growing up in the hood, we seen dead bodies at 8 years old. I seen somebody overdose. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but it was just a normal part of, oh, that's just what happens. That's just what goes on. I think the first time I was robbed at gunpoint, I was like 11 years old. And it was just, that's just what happened. The first time a police officer pulled a gun on me, it was just, that's just what happened. The first time I seen somebody shoot somebody in front of me, it was just like, oh, that's just what happened. And I never looked at it as PTSD, but you look at the Vietnam vets and the Gulf War vets, they coming back from seeing their partners blown to pieces, and they come back, they have PTSD. But we don't look at inner cities and these kids that are coming up in those environments, understanding that, like Eli said, we got all this on our back, but we're expected to walk out here, go to work, and show up with a smile on our face and act normal throughout regular life. And that's the thing for me personally. I realized that, like I said, with my personal situation and then all this other systemic stuff that's going on, I got a lot going on. Maybe trying to talk to somebody that just kind of, I think I've done pretty good on my own at this point, but I can do better. So
But see, you know what? The thing about, so the one thing that I can say about us, we are so, oh my goodness, we are so resilient, and we are so creative, and we will take something that is so painful and hurtful, and we would turn that thing into some type of dance video and still get the message out there. I mean, it's just amazing how we handle pain, how we handle hurt. It's amazing. You know what I'm saying? It's amazing to me. You know, when you really sit back and you think about it, it's just like, man, we are a very, very resilient culture.
It's like on a slave plantation. They gave us the guts that was left over, and we made it a delicacy. You know what I mean? That's what we do.
Don't mess with that. I'll leave that to Eli. I'm sorry, I can't relate to that one.
I don't eat.
I don't eat it either. But culturally, when you look at the food that we eat, they gave us the scraps, and to this day, it's soul food, and people love it, and we still eat it. Like, we don't have to eat the entrails anymore. We still eat it on every Thanksgiving and New Year's. I don't eat it, but I know people who do.
But I think that goes to speak to, the resilience of, our people. And even if we think about, if we think about like the
distraction, Shay.
Look, if we think about the history, I think our people have done a great job of utilizing the things that are used to oppress us to our advantage, right? And that makes us, I think that feeds our resilience even more.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. No, I was just gonna say, honestly, I think they recognize that strength as well, and that's why they put so much pressure on us. That's why they keep us down and held back as much as they do. Because you look at the NFL, you look at the NBA, when they wouldn't allow black players in. Now look at most teams, both in football and basketball, is predominantly all black players. There's no white counterpart to LeBron James or Michael Jordan. There's no white counterpart to they talk about the NFL and quarterbacks only because you don't let black quarterbacks in. And when you do, we take over. Randall Cunningham. I'm not a football fanatic, but we've had some fabulous black quarterbacks because when we come in, we take over. You look at Tiger Woods in golf. You ain't want to let us in. We came in. Look at Arthur Ashe in tennis. It's not a whole lot of us, but when we get there, we take over. And I think they knew that years ago. They realized these people are strong. These people are intelligent. These people are resourceful. We can't let them take over, because I believe that white America in general, not white people, but just that white systemic society has a fear that if we're in control, we're going to do to them what they did to us.
You brought up the NFL, and I was looking, you saw me looking down. I had to pull up this article that was just posted. I don't know if y'all saw this, but Roger Goodell, NFL admits we were wrong on players protesting, says Black Lives Matter. They're now admitting that they were wrong. Who is trying to save some money now, right? They're admitting that they were wrong.
No disrespect to anybody who loves their team, but I've been done with the NFL a long time ago.
That's crazy. That is crazy. You see it everywhere now. Amazon, Amazon, TikTok, they all post the stuff saying that, to our Black community, Black Lives Matter. My son was playing 2K. He was like, Mom, look, Black Lives Matter. Okay. So, I don't know. Is this change? Is this the change that we've been looking for? Is this the moment? I don't know. I really don't know.
We'll see.
I don't know. We will see. We will see. But I know what we have to put a stop to. The microaggressions. And we hear them all the time. I wrote a list down. And I think that we need to start confronting these little microaggressions, and we can do it in a very nice way, because I do truly believe that sometimes people really don't realize that they're being rude. Now, you guys can jump in with some of the microaggressions that you've heard. I wrote down a few of my own. One being, you are very pretty to be a dark-skinned girl.
Before you give your list,
I can't hear you, Eli.
Before you give your list, can you hear me? Before you give your list, I'm just not in the business of letting adults off the hook for ignorance.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you've been, especially if you're an adult and I'm gonna say 21 and up. I'll grant you below that you can be a little ignorant. But 21 and up, I'm not going to let you off the hook for it. You should know better at this point. And if you say and do certain things, that's because that's who you really are. So there's no letting them off the hook. No, you have to address it. You have to address it. You have to take that time to educate, address, and hey, it's not going to be tolerated. It's not going to be tolerated.
And like on my job that I left in January after 5 years, after numerous HR visits, there was an old white dude. He was like 72, and I never heard him say anything specifically to me. Of course, he wouldn't say it in my face, but we had some guys that came over from India, and he raghead, tower head, camel jockey. I mean, he was real ignorant towards them. And like I said, what he said, those black people, of course, he didn't say it when they were in the room, and I guess he felt saying it in front of me made it okay. So I'm like, all right, if you say that to him when he leaves, what are you saying to me when I leave? But my thing I pointed out to them when I went to HR, and of course it's all white people, the white HR lady said, he's older, he's just set in his ways, he's always been like this, yada, yada, yada. But my thing was, at 72 years old, he has a cell phone that he texts his grandson back and forth with. He knows all the apps or whatever. So I'm like, if he can learn this new technology, shows he's still alive, he's still breathing, and he's still learning. So regardless of how he was raised, regardless of the society, if he can learn this, why can't he learn that? So it got to the point where my mouth, I'm not gonna say my mouth got me in trouble, because to this point, I left the job. They didn't fire me. I left before I hurt somebody. And I'm extremely transparent about, I don't know how I can't be brought up on criminal charges for ideas, but I was seriously planning.
Okay. You ain't even gotta say it.
He left.
So I left the job. I left. I said, you know what? It's better if I leave than get myself in a situation.
Right.
And like I said, I have no apologies for, like you said, like Eli, like you said, it's the young ones. Even over 21, you know better. But at 70 some odd years old, you don't get a pass. It ain't because you from a different era. Yada yada yada. Nah, you get slow passes, and I have no more apologies for them. I have no more tears for them. I have no more excuses for them. My point, and I know I don't speak for anyone else in the forum right now. I don't speak for Black people in general. I am at a point where if it happened, somebody picking up, somebody gonna. I'm not walking away. I'm not picking out my phone to record a situation to make sure it works out better for me. I'm not doing none of that.
Yeah.
Like, we're beyond all that at this point because you know better.
Yeah.
And I think what's frustrating for me is that, when, white, or Caucasians, do things like that, they're given excuses or passes, or their behavior gets minimized. But when, I think African Americans, we have had just a history of having to explain ourselves, defend ourselves, explain our actions, fight for what it is that we, want. And it's tiring, It's tiring.
Yeah. We have a few minutes left before we wrap up. I want to spit out these microaggressions really quick, and you guys can tell me how many. We could do it by a show of hands. How many times you've heard this? Has it ever, around you, towards you, or whatever? I initially said, you're pretty to be a dark-skinned girl or a brown-skinned girl. I've heard that several times. Oh, you're very articulate. You don't sound Black. I've heard that. Yeah. Okay. This one, I'm sure we've heard. When we say Black Lives Matter, I hear someone say, well, all lives matter. When we say Black Lives Matter, it does not mean we are saying that your life don't matter, white people life don't matter, Latino lives don't matter. We're not saying that. We're saying Black Lives Matter. We are the ones that are being shot down in the streets.
Yeah.
So that's why it matters. That's why it matters. It's not about disrespecting any other race, but we're the ones that's being shot down. We're the ones being choked, being lynched. So that's why Black Lives Matter.
Again, it's that society that we live in. I mean, everything that we do is in response. We didn't just come up with Black Lives Matter to be an antagonist towards white people. We came up with that because we got to remind certain white people. I mean, so when they come up with all of their little sayings, all lives matter, blue lives matter, that's to antagonize to go against what we're saying. If all lives really mattered, we would have never came up with Black Lives Matter.
Yep. I have a Black friend.
Yeah.
How many times you've heard that?
Yeah.
Can I touch your hair?
Oh my God, somebody actually did that one time.
That is the most disrespectful.
Some of those are female things. I don't think anybody.
Can I touch your hair? That's personal invasion.
Yeah.
It is definitely. But I don't think, even when I had locks, I don't think I ever had anybody run up to me and be like, "Ooh, can I run my fingers?" I had sisters, but not white women. And I had, to be clear, I mean, you don't see it at all now, but I had locks. I didn't have pretty twisted dread. I had dreads. So yeah, nobody wanted to touch my hair when I had my locks.
Well, I don't see color. I'm colorblind.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
So here's the thing: for you to say, and please, I'm definitely not making light of this, but understand that when you say that I don't see color or I'm colorblind, what you're basically doing is dismissing the pain and the hurt that we have gone through as people of color. I want you to see my Blackness. I want you to see it. I want you to acknowledge it. Because when you see it and when you acknowledge it, you also see and understand what comes along with it. So if you're telling me that you don't see color, then you don't see me as a Black woman.
All right.
Anybody else?
Yeah, they see us. They see us. It's just taking the time to understand us. And I think there's been so many biases and stereotypes passed along about us for hundreds of years. And if you're constantly being like, how things are reinforced to us about like now how we have to address our children and reinforce them how to act in the presence of the police. Just imagine what they're hearing about, well, Black people are like this. If you do this, you have to be careful. If you go here, you know what I mean? So stuff has been passed down to them for hundreds of years. So they're dealing
Mm-hmm.
with, and this is what cute for them. But I'm just saying they're dealing with a bunch of BS too. And then we are the recipient of those biases and the discrimination. And when they do see us, they're intimidated by us based on what they've heard, as opposed to getting to know someone. And we're articulate, we're intelligent, we have degrees too. You know, people own homes. People are doing the same thing you guys are doing.
Yeah.
We want what's best for our
Absolutely.
children. We don't want to hurt it. We want them in good schools. We want the same things y'all want. But if you don't take the time to try to learn it or understand that, then you'll always just walk around with those biases and stereotypes about us.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, I mean, we can go on and on and on about this, and I just felt the need to jump on this really quick, and I wanted to bring some powerhouses to the table, some people that was not afraid to, you know, to be transparent, to speak their truth, and, you know, I thank you guys for joining me and having this discussion, this dialogue. I thank everyone that is actually watching this video. Please like and share it. We have to get the word around. We have to get the message around. We have to stop this craziness that is happening. We have to stop. It has to end. It has to end. Any last minute comments or anything anybody want to say?
Thank you for this platform and, you know, the opportunity to have such, you know, cathartic and, you know, vulnerable conversation. I think it's important that we have these conversations as, number one, an outlet to express what we're going through and to really, you know, delve into the things that we're experiencing as well. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to make the announcement. So this was a special edition of the Rebirth, but the Rebirth will be coming back. We are going to be in a new location, and we're going to have our same amazing co-host that's going to be joining us. So I'm so excited about that, guys. Just definitely make sure that you follow us at Rebirth_radio, or you can follow us on Facebook at Rebirth U. Is that my Facebook handle? I don't forgot. It's been a long time since I've said it. But it will be attached to this video. But make sure that you follow us. We're going to be coming back with some really good information and conversation, stimulating conversations. It's not just going to be via video, but we will also be on iTunes, Spotify, and iHeart Radio. And we're joining with the Mystery DJ Show. So, you know, just tune in. I'm very excited about this. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eli. Thank you, Lost Child, for joining us. Thank you, Jen. I love you all. And stay safe and power to the people. Love you guys. Have a good one.